How are we going to start?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Secrets to Getting Clients Summit. We're so happy that you're here. Today, we have the fabulous Ashley DeLuca, who is our email nurturing and tech goddess over in Ucoachia. She's widely regarded as the go-to source for all things email marketing and e-commerce. She's been featured in lots of incredible publications like Funnel Magazine and GoDaddy, Thrive Global. And she is a real talk, no nonsense, guacamole loving, coffee loving lady that we love. So,
yay!
Welcome, Ashley.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. We're going to dive right in to why people are here, which is all about getting clients, right? So what we'd love to hear from you, and I'll ask you for general question, and then Nancy's going to dive into the more specifics of how we can put things into actionable steps for our viewers. What has been the most successful, your favorite way of getting clients in your business?
Yeah, so for me, honestly, it's relationships. Like relationships is the biggest thing for me and is often overlooked, especially in the online space. We see a bunch of Instagram profiles and links and names, and sometimes we forget that there's faces behind all of them. And so being able to build relationships and then use email marketing to continue those relationships has definitely been like my most favorite way of being able to get clients.
So what avenues have you used to create these relationships? What have been some of your favorite avenues to create these relationships?
Yeah, so originally when I first started my business, it was primarily through Facebook. Some of my first gigs were actually off of Craigslist. I'm surprised I didn't die. But one of those things is mainly Facebook groups. Facebook groups were the easiest way because for me, I used Instagram as a way to post pictures of M&Ms and the leaves outside, very much so like the beginning of Instagram looked like. I didn't know how to use it for my business. And so for me, it was mainly like getting into Facebook groups with other people who are also running businesses as well.
Okay, so you're sitting there. Okay, first off, Craigslist, we are going to explore that a little bit. This is a first. I don't think anybody said Craigslist.
No one has said Craigslist since.
So let's wander down that road for just a second, because I love the idea of kind of trying things that are so outside the box. So what do I want to know? Like what your ad was on Craigslist?
Oh yeah, totally. Okay. So at the time, so I was living in Columbus, Ohio. And so for me, I was like, man, how do I really get my business out there? Like, how do I tell people that I have a web design company, right? And so at that time, I was just looking for a way to be able to just find people. And I had remembered looking up job postings on Craigslist. And I was like, I wonder if people have contract job positions of them just wanting a web designer. And so I would just go through and just basically reply to ads and say, hey, they were looking for a web designer for a website. And I'd be like, hey, I would love to help. Here's some of my past examples. There were some that I would meet at Panera down the street, or I would go to their office building. And so a lot of my really first clients were that. And then also my dad as well. So my dad is super into ham radio. So I made a website for his ham radio club. So I used things that I was passionate about to create examples of my work. And then from there, I leveraged them to be able to get $50, $100 gigs off of Craigslist to start to build my credibility and my experience.
So you also said you went to your dad. So you were doing, I love the Craigslist thing is kind of ingenious. So you went out there, you're looking for contract work with businesses and a little fearless there. I love that. And then you're going to your dad for the ham radio. Was that just so you could get a build out done at that point? Or what was the intention behind that?
Yeah, so it was a mixture of, yes, wanting an example to use for my own client work, to show that I had created something that wasn't my own website. But then also as well too, my dad really needed something as well to be able to expand their club, essentially to create more credibility for their club. So it was a mixture of helping my dad out as a gift, giving him my time, helping him with that. And then also on the flip side as well too, being able to essentially, build out my credibility, build my portfolio to show that I was a credible service provider.
Understood. Okay, so now you're transitioning into Facebook.
Can I just,
Yeah.
I want to tag one point onto that because I love that. And I think that if I can just apply, bring that, make it applicable for new coaches, right? A lot of times new coaches, if you finish your certification and then 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, 3 months goes by, we have no clients, right? And not only you're not making money, but you're not in your craft. You're not in your craft, you're not getting testimonials. And so what I hear you say is that there is value in doing free work for someone to, first of all, be doing what you love to be doing so that you're growing. Because every time we're actually working in our field, we are getting better at it. But then also you're yielding testimonials and I forget the word you used for, to have a portfolio or whatever to show to other clients. So I'm not saying to give everything away, but if you're in a situation, where clients are not coming through the door and you don't have testimonials yet, and it's a great idea sometimes to have, to continue after certification to work with people pro bono to get those testimonials as well as to sharpen, keep sharpening your coaching skills. I just wanted to add that in.
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the whole thing. You want to have multiple strategies. We strongly believe there's no one way to do this. And
exactly right.
People learning, for example, Craigslist, you're going to learn every day different things, which is awesome because there's no one perfect way.
Right.
So, okay, now we're going to go on to your Facebook world. So you decide to leave Craigslist. You're now living in Facebook. And when did you start doing the email marketing and start honing in on that rather than websites? So like at that point, when you're doing that transition into straight up emails, what is it that you're looking for in the Facebook groups? Like, can you help us like identify how you were targeting and what it is that you were doing in those groups that would then have the people come to you so that you'd have conversations?
Yeah, so I'm going to first initially start with what I was originally doing for my web design company that then allowed for me to transition the email and what that looked like, because those are two separate things for me, or like two separate points. So originally my thought process was to network and connect and add value. And so one of the biggest things that I did, and it was very extremely time intensive, my best friend Diana would totally attest that we spent hours and hours and hours in Facebook groups, especially some of the large ones, just searching web design threads, searching questions around WordPress, HTML, CSS, and just going and giving massive amounts of value. One of the things that I really focused on was just trying to become everybody's friend. Like, just being like, okay, I just want you to know who I am and that I'm here to help, and I would help them. Now, of course, and I'll mention this as well too, there was definitely a limit. And I think it's really important to be able to figure out what your boundary is of like how much you want to give. I wasn't offering free web design packages. I wasn't offering like, I'll do all of your copywriting. Like I wasn't doing like all the things. I was just like, can I give you a small win that will allow for you to be able to get past this roadblock for you to start back on that road of success? So that way, when you start to run into another roadblock, something else happens, you want to pivot, you want to redo your website because you're like, no, this doesn't serve me. You're going to come back and think of Ashley because I was, a part of that process of helping you overcome that. And so understand what your boundaries are.
So good. What you just said is so good. It's so valuable. A small win. Can you say that again? I'm sorry. Sometimes I need people to say their genius statements again, because when you can give someone a small win, can you just say that one more time when you're
definitely. Yeah. So when you can go through the process of being able to help someone achieve a small win, it then allows for them to be able to connect that win back to you. Yes. And in that process, it's not about you taking ownership or I almost want to say, credit for it, because like, of course they're doing the work, but being able to help guide them in that direction, to be able to help them get over that roadblock, to be able to help them through that struggle and move them forward is what can make a huge world of difference. And then also too, like, and I'll link this back to email real quick and then we'll pop back out. Like, this is what I do within email marketing all the time. Like, I just want you to have small wins. Like, my goal is for you every single email to have some kind of shift, win, thought that then moves you in a positive direction.
This is my new mantra, Nancy. Because Nancy and I are going to be going into my new mantra is, who can I give a small win? Where, how can I give a small win? I think that that's really good. And it's a catchy way to remember that that's why we're there, to serve and give a small win. And then they have that association and, you get known for that. I love it. I love it.
And
1000%.
You want more. I know you want more specifics, Nancy.
you know I do. Okay,
Yeah, I know.
so like, you know I do. So you're in the Facebook group, you're saying somebody's commenting like, my God, I can't build my website, you know, I'm struggling, but you're like, here, like, dude, just use this line of code, like, or do you want me to go look over your website and see what's wrong with it? You do. Now, at that point, you've created that little mini relationship. So what is your follow-up sequence to go get them from, I've connected with you, to buy from me?
I'm a little bit probably unconventional. I never put any of them in a sales pipeline or a thought process or follow-up messages. My biggest, like, I truly believe the reason why I am where I am today is because I just genuinely came from a place of serving, and I just continue to show up, and I continue to show up via indirectly within my content. Through my Facebook group that I had a long time ago, through the posts that I post on my profile, like on my business page and all of that. And so a lot of times for me, like, my strategy is for people to come to me. Like, I wait for an invitation before I go through the process of selling, or before I go through the process of asking for anything from them. I allow them to come to me first. And so the way I looked at it is I'm just planting seeds. And, through my content, showing up consistently, whether it's in the Facebook groups or my content, I'm just consistently watering them. And there's a lot of people that I helped that didn't become clients, but they referred people to me. There's a lot of people who still continue to refer me to this day that I've known for 5+ years that I answered a question for.
Okay,
what comes up for me right now is like, you're solving people's problems, right? When we solve people's problems, we make money. So get very clear on what problem is it that you solve. What problem is it that you solve that someone is struggling with right now that they're willing to invest in the solution? Ashley's is more tech, more specific, and so it's clearer for some people. It might take you a moment just to grasp what that is for you. But going in and having a very specific intention of, I can solve this problem. And I love that.
Yeah. And one other way that I would streamline that process, like going back, is having, a clear email piece that goes with that. And so,
Right.
back in the day, I was answering questions on what platform should I put my website on? I could have easily created a quiz around that and said, hey, if you're, still struggling, you're still trying to figure it out. Like, I created this quiz, it's totally free. If you want the link, let me know. Just, give me a shout and I'll be more than happy to send it your way, but it may help kind of weed through the confusion and help you maybe get to a better result, or, point you in the right direction. And so having some kind of resource that will take them out of that group and into your world is something that you have to be careful about, because some groups don't want you just to drop links everywhere. But if you can prove it to be valuable, you can relate it back to their question. It then allows for them to be like, oh, heck yeah, I would love a quiz. Please take me out of this mind dump of I don't know what platform to choose.
And I do love a quiz.
Who doesn't?
Right?
I'm I don't know about the rest of you guys right now. I already know what platforms. I'm I want to take the quiz right now. Ashley, maybe this.
But for those who don't know, what Ashley's speaking of is like a lead magnet, right? Where you create something of value to exchange for someone's email, right? So that they're now in your universe and you can nurture them through your emails. So what can you provide for someone? What, think of value? Is it a PDF checklist? Is it a quiz? Like Ashley said, is it a video training? Is it an audio training? Is it a guided meditation? Is it a grocery list? If you're doing nutrition, or we're like yesterday, was it yesterday? Was Kate with us yesterday? 2 days ago, she gave us that calculator, that spreadsheet calculator. That's a fantastic lead magnet. So if you don't have that for your business already, that's definitely something you want to put some energy into, because it's a way of bringing people into your world.
To then eventually have them on your email list so that you can nurture them.
Yes.
Which is Ashley's area of genius.
Yeah, it all comes full circle.
So, but you pivoted, and I love a good pivot. So a lot of people think that I'm doing this and now I have to do this forever because I'm building my brand and building my world here. Can you walk us through a little bit? I know this isn't about the getting client side of it, but I think it's interesting, which is when you pivoted from straight up website to email nurturing marketing. Can you go through a little bit of that transition for us?
Yeah, 100%. So to give some context, when I was in this stage of my life, I was still really struggling. I didn't have consistent income. I was still trying to figure out how to get consistent clients. I really felt a lot of scarcity in my world. And I was just struggling. Like I was struggling so hard in my personal life, in my business life, like just everywhere. And things just felt really hard. And I realized, and I had a conversation with somebody, and I was just like, man, like, I just feel like I am running around with my head cut off. Like, I'm working these 50-hour weeks. Like, I'm literally working, and I have my baby in a bouncer. I'm nursing while I'm working. I'm taking calls while I'm trying to change his diaper. Like, I was doing all of it. And I was just literally not even myself anymore. Like, I was just like a corpse because I was just so exhausted and like trying to do it all. And I realized when I was looking, like my roster was filled with like 20 plus clients, which sounds amazing, you know, when you think about it, but I was doing different work for every single one of those clients. Every single client had a different project, different price point, different expectations, different way of communicating. Like nothing was streamlined, nothing was the same. It literally felt like a mosh podge of like everything. And so I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and she was like, Ashley, like, tell me, like, if you could choose to do one thing, what would that look like for you? Like, if you could do one thing, what would that look like? And before I could even like think about it, I literally said email. And so what ended up happening is I went through this process of, you know, figuring out what does that look like for me? What do I feel comfortable with? What does that look like now? And then going through the process of slowly, as I would get email clients, I would take away some of the web design until I was down to like none of that, like my very, very favorite ones. And then I broke the news and then I like referred them out. And so I'm actually, what's very interesting is like, I've done this process a couple times. I've gone through the process of pivoting a lot. I actually went through a pivot earlier this year where I got a bunch of clients off of LinkedIn. So same strategy as Craigslist, just on LinkedIn. Got a bunch of clients, but just felt so incredibly drained from all of the communication standards, all the different things, all the different like pieces, and it just wasn't fulfilling me. And so I went through that same exact process of like pivoting, letting go, bringing in more of what I want, and then moving forward from there.
Okay, we're going to go back for a second. So, because we know LinkedIn is a hot topic. When you said the exact same thing as on Craigslist, like what did you do on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn isn't like people, did you go to the job board is what you're saying? You went to like the job posting and people were looking for email and then you reached out? Is that
correct?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. That's actually also a great idea. So just a straight up job board, people. Straight up job board. Like, who knew? Okay, I have like a back in time. So like you've rebuilt your business a few times. And I feel like this question is going to really be interesting for you because it's like when you look at where you started and where you started, your start point's been a couple of the times. What would you have done differently that you think would have made the biggest difference in your business? Like if you could have gone back and told little baby Ashley something, what would it have been? Or even the new iteration of Ashley, something that she should have known, what would that be?
I think the first thing is pick one thing and stick with it. You know, it's okay that like for me, when I look at it, I'm like, okay, no, it's good that I went from web design to email because I absolutely hate web design now, except for like a few things. And that's totally fine. Like obviously our passions and our gifts change and we develop and grow and evolve like we're humans. But I really wish I would have stopped chasing all of the things. Like I wish I would have just stayed consistent in what I was doing, even if it did feel really small. I always felt like I had to chase the big things. I had to have the Facebook group. I had to have this and that and da da da. And like, I didn't focus on what was working. I was just constantly trying to find other new things that would also work instead of just pouring my energy into what actually was working.
That's powerful. That's powerful because we often look like, okay, this is working, check, move on to the next, as opposed to check, focus.
Or this isn't working, move on to the next. And it's not that it's not working, it's that you haven't been working it long enough, you know, which is, you know, I love that metaphor of the digging the treasure, right? If you've only dug 10 feet and it's 20 feet down and you keep changing spots, you're never going to get it. If you, you know, staying committed to one area, one thing for long enough that you can gain some traction, gain momentum, you know, get known for that space, gain authority. in that space in order to, attract the clients that you're looking for. I think that's so valuable what you shared.
But how do you know when it's time to give up on something that isn't working or stay with it? Because like it always feels like I'm right around the corner from this thing actually happening. Like that's kind of the unfortunately like the siren song of whatever it is we're trying. It's like if I just keep at it, it's gonna do it. And then you hear all those stories of I kept at it for 10 years and it finally clicked. And you're like, what point you decide this is not effective to my goal? Like, do you have any thoughts around that?
So for me, it's a lot around how I feel. That's kind of like I have my own barometer or my own, basically my own barometer or measuring stick. I'll use my Facebook group as an example. I've had Facebook groups for going on like probably 4 years on and off, like this group, all this different stuff. And I got to the point where when I would go into my Facebook group, I legitimately didn't know what to post. And it wasn't just like a day, it was weeks. Every time I would go in there, I'm like, this just doesn't feel right to me. Like I want to show up and serve differently. And that's when I pivoted over to Instagram. I was like, man, Instagram feels really good to me because I can just pop on, do some quick stories. I don't have to have like all of this intention associated with it. And so I just really pay attention to like how I feel and, and take into consideration, like, what is that feeling? And is it, me just not wanting to do the work? Is it just me, not feeling aligned to something? Why is that? Is it, do I need to see more time? And it's just an honest conversation with myself and then, being able to go from there.
I feel like you have to take into consideration, like, if you were getting all the clients that you wanted to get and you were able to do work in this niche, would you be satisfied with that? Right?
Yep.
If it's just that the clients aren't coming, right, then you need to check in and your own work, your consistency levels, how much you're putting out, right? And if you can say that you've given 6 months to a year to a certain niche and you've been consistent and you've been giving and you're not getting back, then okay, maybe it's time to pivot. But I would bet a lot of money that most times when people are wanting to change their niche in the beginning, the consistency is not there. And if working with this group lights you up, when you're with these types of people and sessions and everything, you feel lit up, right? But you're just not getting the clients. I don't think it's time to move on. But I think in the case of like what Ashley was saying, like, but however, if you are working with these people and you're finding yourself drained, you're finding yourself unhappy, you're finding yourself kind of, avoiding your Facebook groups, then maybe it's, time to consider something.
I like that. Get the result.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that. So basically what I hear you saying is, Facebook groups, and how do you choose your Facebook groups to engage in? Which groups you're going to engage in?
Yeah. So back in the day, I would do a mix of bigger ones and then also smaller niche ones as well. And so I would look and see, like, if someone were to recommend their group, I would go and join. And, I had a whole process around it of like, oh, I'm going to make a spreadsheet, and I would make a spreadsheet of all my groups and when's the last time I interacted and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, it was like, by the time I do all that, I could have interacted on five different posts. And so I just like kind of picked like, my top 10. And then I just kind of cycled through, just checked in, not forcing myself to commit or to comment or to post or whatever, just being able to, again, feel into like what felt good and then just like go for it.
How long do you engage with someone in the group before you take it off the group? Like to a DM or something like that?
Or do you?
I never DM'd anybody unless they asked me to.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would friend request them. Like if it felt really good, I'd be like, "Ooh, I want you in this part of my world. Like you're super cool." Yeah. But I would never like pull DM. I would never like, even at that point, even if since it is like a warm connection, I would never like reach out to them or, unless they asked me to.
Gotcha.
How would you, because like oftentimes then it could stagnate at that point. Is that just like, you're like, okay, cool, this is where it dies? Or do you prompt or do anything to help get them over that hump? Or do you just let it be?
I just always let it go. Like, again, it's like, I have a very like no pressure associated marketing. And I'm just kind of like, if you want to be part of my world, like you're going to be part of it. Like, and that's totally cool. Like you'll engage on myself. You'll see it. Like, I just have a lot of trust in knowing that like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and being able to just like, because I get so stuck like in my head about all the strategies of like, did I say the right thing? Does this make sense? And like it was just like so time consuming in my own brain, and with my ADHD it was literally killing me. So I just let it go, and I'm like, listen, like in this moment I'm with you guys, I'm very present, and like whatever happens happens, and that's totally fine. And I just let go of any expectations of the results that may come, even from this like summit, for an example, or doing this like live stream with you guys.
Yeah. So really detaching from the outcome, being present when you're there to serve. Again, I think, making the shift to Instagram and constantly giving content and attracting people that way. And that worked for you, changing that mindset of having to have control, right? And just surrendering a little bit, knowing that you're there to serve, and building that attraction, that natural attraction. Go ahead.
Like Instagram for a second. So on Instagram, people are engaging with your stuff. Do you respond back? Like how, like, I know we're getting very, very detailed, nitty gritty, but I feel like sometimes like on Instagram, you're like, okay, somebody liked it. Am I supposed to do something with that now? Or because like you were saying, like they're a person on the other side of the screen. Is it just somebody like, hey, nice to see you? Or is it like somebody that you're actually going to then reach out to? Exactly, Colleen, stuck in your head. Yeah, exactly. But like, so like, what do you do in the world of the like or the thumbs up, whatever it is, or the acknowledgement?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard strategies about reaching out to people and saying, hey, thanks so much for engaging for my post. And I've done some of that in the past. But as of right now, like it doesn't feel good to me. It's it's really time consuming. Right. And so, the way that I like to do is I like to intentionally go into my followers list and just pick, 10, 15 people, depending on how much time I have, and just go and randomly engage with them and go watch their content and like actually comment. And if I don't feel like there's a comment that's necessary, then like, cool, I'll move to the next post until, something lands for me. But that's how I like to do it, because I don't like to be stalked. I actually cringe when people DM me randomly. Like I interacted with a reel and someone's like, tell me all of your ADHD problems. I'm like, bro, no, I don't even know you. Why would I pour my heart out to you and tell you all of the things I'm struggling with? And so I'm very invitation based. Like you come into my DMs, like I will DM you, like very much so. If you post a story, that's an invitation for me, because then I can reply to that, if you have replies on, right? So that's how I like to look at it.
I love that. I mean, I love the choosing 10 or 15 people from your list randomly to go in and engage with. I've never heard that. I think that's a great idea, to set that intention for the week, or for the, that you're going to just, no, I think that's a great idea. And then it's not, it's not slimy
or overwhelming to you. Like it's a manageable thing to do. And I love that you're like, and they're people. And so you go look at them and you decide, is this somebody I want in my world that I want to interact with or not?
And again, consuming their content, right? Consuming their content and being an audience for them and a give for them, whether it's commenting, liking, promoting their things. I think that's very valuable. So I'm going to shift for just a moment. The other purpose of this summit is to educate people about some of the misinformation that's out there, because it can be very misleading and it can actually ruin people's lives, because they end up investing thousands of dollars in programs that may not yield the results they're looking for. So my next question for you is, what is your biggest pet peeve about the current coaching industry?
My biggest pet peeve is the facade. There are a lot of there's a lot of coaches out there who have completely different lives than what's behind the screen. And so first and foremost, I'll preface, I do believe in privacy. Like, my 4-year-old, I've actually took him off Instagram. And, for me, like that was a choice that I decided to make. And like everyone else can choose what they want to choose, right? And so I believe that you guys, like everybody gets to choose how much they share, what they share, and what that looks like. The issue that I have is creating a complete story or facade just for the gram or just for Facebook. And more specifically, what I mean around that is a lot of times number wise, they'll say, and this is just an example, I've had a 100K launch. perfect. I love that. That's amazing. But then looking at it, you know, for somebody who's new, they might be, oh my gosh, you got 100K in your bank account? That's amazing. Like that would change my life. And that, I mean, 100K in my bank account, that would totally change my life too.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that one, please.
Yeah, right.
But what most people don't know is all of the rest of it, all of the expenses, paying the team members, paying for the ads. And a lot of times we just look at that top level number and we don't see the bottom level number that is the actual take home. And that may not even be like now, it may also be for the next 12 months. They may all have clients on payment plans.
Yeah.
And so, you know, being able to, like, for me, I just want to paint a really true picture in regards to with like, what does that look like? Now, I don't talk about my revenue. That's not something that I feel like is very important for my audience to know, like, and trust me. But you know, that's the one thing that I see all the time is that, and then also the facade in regards to it's just like how their time is being spent. This is a huge one that I see all the time where on stories they'll talk about like, I have all this free time because of my team doing all these things for me. You know, I don't work past 9 o'clock, or I'll just say like 5 o'clock. And they're the same people who are in slacking me at 5:30 about this whole thing that they want to launch and they want to all do it tonight and all the things. And so there's just a lot of almost kind of double standards within that. And it's not for everybody. And it doesn't, you know, not all coaches are like that. I try really, really hard to stay in integrity with, you know, what I share and what I'm actually doing behind the scenes. But it is something that I've seen a lot of that okay.
It feels like, you know, it just feels like there's been a movement in the last few years to promote coaching as like a get rich quick, profession. And that's just, and then when if you invest in some of these programs that make you feel like it's a get rich quick, and then you don't, you immediately blame yourself and think that there's something wrong with you. That you haven't had in 3 to 4 months, you haven't been able to monetize the way that they said that you could. And then you can go into a shame spiral and totally give up. And, you know, the truth is this is not a get rich quick profession. This is a business, you know, and it's exactly, Colleen says exactly. And then you feel defeated and give up. And this is why we're here. I mean, this is why Nancy and I are here, because we've seen this. We've spoken to hundreds of coaches who have been in this situation. And, you know, these are people's lives. These are people's lives. And these are people who want to serve. They want to help people, you know? And so that's just why we want to have this conversation, because it's important for everyone to know who's committing themselves to a life of service and coaching or consulting or even entrepreneurship, you know, online entrepreneurship, that it's going to take longer than you think. And it's work, it's fun work, it's rewarding work, but there's nothing easy, quick fix about this, right, Nancy?
No, I love when people are like, I want to make 6 figures in 60 days. I think I've shown you guys that little stupid sign that I bought into. Like, yeah, okay, me too. But like, I love what you're saying, Ashley, because you're saying that there is a facade, like there's a front that's going on where people are saying like, this is the lifestyle we're selling you.
Yeah.
I'm not even living that lifestyle. They're not even, they're like, look at me lying on my Lamborghini in my pool. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you know, so you've ruined a Lamborghini in your pool. Okay. But like, you know, it's like, but look at me doing this. Look at me on vacation here in this beautiful place. And you're thinking, my God, if I work with them, I'm going to have access to all that. Well, first off, let's be clear, that person's obviously on a lot of vacations, so they're not available for you, but like, they're not even legitimately having that life is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, I've also been part of that as well too, thinking that like I need to show, you know, me being super incredibly excited and happy. And it wasn't in the spite of trying to manipulate or lie. It was just like, I don't want people to see all the rest of it. And that was something as well too that I had to work through, is like I didn't have what I would consider an Instagram worthy house. You know, I didn't have all of these things that I was like, well, no one wants to see this. Like no one wants to see any of my other pieces. And I just realized that like at the end of the day, people just want to get a glimpse into your real life. And so I show a lot of messy parts. Like as I'm sitting here, Yeah, there's some dishes. Like I have eaten pizza because I was making lunch right before this for Nick. I got Nick in the background. Like there's a lot of pieces that I would have been so ashamed of and had tried to mask. And it's just like, that's not real. Like my real life is having a toddler literally hit me in the head with a pizza box saying, "Mom, will you please make me this pizza?" And then bringing over a juice cup and trying to spill the lemonade and like finding a box and putting it over his head and then having to take it off because it got stuck. Like that's real life, and that's what people are looking for, and that's what I wish more people would like cater into and do and realize is that like other people really want that as well too.
Yeah, relatable. I'm reading Mary asked 2 questions, and by the way, Colleen, yeah, they are selling a fantasy.
Totally.
And we've all bought it at one point or another, thinking that it's like we all went to Victoria's Secret and thought if we put on the lingerie we would look like the model. We knew this was not happening, yet we did it anyway. Mary said, what is your advice on email subject matters? How should you get them to be enticing or attractive to recipients? Is that even necessary?
Yeah, so generally speaking, we're talking about the subject lines or the actual like header, like an image. I'll go both ways real quick to answer both ways. So for your subject lines, 1000% necessary. They should be curiosity driven, open-ended questions. For some of my clients, it does work well to have a headline based of like 3 ways to XYZ. But generally speaking, more so of like the curiosity based ones that are just kind of like, what is she talking about? Get a lot more opens and attention. And then for the header, it's a hit or miss. If you, and I don't think it's anyone in this room, but I'll throw it out there. If you're in e-commerce, yes, please. But most service-based and coaches, it's not necessary. Like you can have a little logo up the top, but a lot of my coaching clients have been doing really well with just having more so of those plain text emails that just like maybe have their logo up the top and then say, hey, first name, and then go into the email, not providing something else that they have to scroll past or looks like a sales email.
Okay, that's good to know. That's
very good to know.
And then Mary also asks, is entertainment a necessary part of social media marketing? Only for you, Mary. You must always dance. That's going to be our new Mary must always dance. And Mary, she's on camera right now, but she has a lot of, from her grandkids, a lot of stuffed animals. I'm going to vote that you also have to do some sort of puppeteering with them. Because I get that you should educate to show that you're an authority, but should you entertain?
Yeah, so there's like a new trend going out, and I think it's kind of here to stay. It's called oh my gosh, no, it's like it's a mixture of both, and it's a word, but I can't.
Education.
Yeah, entertainment. We'll just go with it, okay?
Yeah, it's that word. That's it. That's the word.
Yeah, but it's mixing both, and so people want to be entertained. Like when I go onto social media, I'm not looking for a lecture. I'm not looking for all the, like, I want some kind of either giggles or laughs. I want you to make me think. And so, especially when you think about Instagram, for an example, and reels, the reels that they're just like, giving basically a lecture to do not get as much engagement as opposed to the ones that have transitions and that have a little bit of, like spice to them or a little bit of interesting to them. So I would say definitely a healthy mixture of both is what's recommended. And, even when you think about your emails as well, instead of just saying it is what it is of like, here's what I'm offering, add in a story about it. Like I did Instagram stories. This is probably a month ago about my trash cans and how me and my trash cans have a broken relationship.
I saw that. I was like enthralled. I was like, your trash cans. Like, yes, that actually caught me.
Yeah. And so thinking about the things that are in your world and relating them back, like I could talk about this half-eaten pizza over here and how, how many drafts do we have saved in our Google Drive, or how many drafts do you have in your email marketing system that are half done that you haven't gone through the process of completing? Like my challenge for you today is to go and eat the rest of your pizza or finish your email drafts, right? And so just thinking about it in a way that is a little bit different and more creative, is definitely how I would.
By the way, I just want to tell you that was completely relatable, and I'm sitting here like I have 1,000 half-eaten boxes of pizza in our shared drive, and it really like that sort of visual and metaphor. I believe I always get those confused, but like it really brought it home, and you can see it, what you're doing, identify it, and then you're like, I can eat a half pizza. Okay,
Yeah.
I can also, you know, deal with some of these emails or do whatever. It makes it much, much more manageable, relatable,
Yeah.
and meaning.
What I want to, yeah,
Mhm.
and what I want to say, what I hear you saying is that entertainment doesn't need to be frivolous dancing, and you know, it's about being authentically who you are and sharing a little piece of yourself, a little piece of your life, and being relatable. It can be, entertainment can mean that as well. It doesn't have to just mean, you know, show tunes.
Oh yeah.
So, you know,
But it could mean show tunes.
it could mean show tunes. It could mean show tunes, especially for Nancy. But you know, if you're not a dancer or singer, then when you think of entertainment, think, okay, how can I share more of who I am? Let people in on something that they might find relatable, because when we relate to each other, that is entertaining. The nervous system relax, you feel heard, you feel understood, you connect. So that's what I heard you say, which I completely agree with.
I also like that you're sharing the messy part, because
Yeah.
I think that that actually is the most relatable side, is when we
Yeah.
talk about, you know, whatever you've going on, like, you know, like I for weeks will have a pile of laundry, like I do my laundry, but like there's one pile that just kind of lives there, and I keep on adding to it. It's like either the towels or the sheets or something. And for whatever reason, I decided that that's going to be like the biggest pile of laundry I'm ever going to make, and I'm never going to do it. But one day I finally just do it. I'm like, what in God's name is stopping me, except for this weird idea that it's just this gigantic thing that I've created. And it's not real, but like that, even that small story, you might relate and say, I've created something large in my life, that I've made a mountain out of a molehill. Is basically a literal one of sheets. But like, you know, but you can relate to the mess in a literal sense of the messiness of that. And I think that that also creates a vulnerability in at the same time. I
And I
love.
think, yeah, and I think that that's like a radical, in radical opposition to this bullshit, excuse my language, you know, jets, Lamborghinis, pools, you know, kids that are really taken care of by nannies, perhaps, and, you know, perfect life, that to lift the veil of perfectionism and to connect, that's the real currency, is the connection. So I agree. I agree.
Now we're going to ask you our favorite question.
Mhm.
So now, you know that when we were creating Ucoachia, that we went out and we basically scoured for people who were just like awesome at what they do. They had to have experience teaching. They had to know what they were doing. They had to be like a good person, though. Like honestly, like a sense of who they were was really important to us. But strong, knowledgeable, able to teach, able to relate. So that's why we were so excited when you became part of Ucoachia. But why did you choose to become part of us?
Yeah, so for me, it comes full circle because I had a conversation today with my chamber of commerce in my local area. I've never done that before, but I was like, cool, this might be fun. This might be interesting. And I have very similar thoughts about Ucoachia. This will be fun. This will be interesting. But also too, it directly like relates back to like my why and what I really, really feel at the bottom of my heart that I'm here to do. And you know, for me, I look at it as like a domino effect. If I can help you go through the process of sending out that email, and that email positively impacts somebody of your audience, and they're able to have a small win, make a difference, feel better about themselves, like have a brighter, get a smile on their face, whatever that looks like, it's that domino of being able to create impact, that ripple, if you will. And you know, for me, like I said, I see Ucoachia as a way to be able to impact that ripple and being able to show up and serve, while also honing my craft and like being able to get more experience in teaching and like all of that good fun stuff. But realistically, it comes back to service for me, and just like serving without any attachment to what that outcome may be, and just recognizing that like there's power in consistency, power in showing up, and power of serving.
I love that. I love that. It's just, it really is, speaks to who you are. Oh, hold on, Mary. How can you be sure that the people in your email list are actual potential clients as opposed to tag-alongs? What's a tag-along?
So essentially, there's two different things that you can do. You can get really heavy into tagging and start segmenting your audience in order to be able to figure out who's actually engaging with your audience, who is going through the process of actually, you know, interacting. Like that's the biggest thing. And then also too, you can track people who click over to your calendar link or your book a call or your website or your sales page or your Facebook. Like you can track all of that. And so for me, again, I'm very unreleased to the outcome because I have people, again, who have been part of my list for almost 5 years now who just love to hear from me. They're not necessarily looking for email marketing as of right now, but there are people who have been like, I've been receiving your emails for 3 years now, and I've always loved them. And now I want to hire, like, I'm in a place where I want to hire you, or it makes sense in my business to bring you in. And so you, again, you can get heavy into segmentation and tagging and create an audience strategy around that. But then also too, for me, it's just like, like, you can be part of my world. I'm just happy that people are part of my world. Like that's the biggest thing for me. I'm just grateful for the people as part of my world.
I love it. So just having them there, and if they're in the right spot, great. But if they're not, they're still part of you. They're still opening. They're still experiencing it. And maybe at some point they will join in and become the ideal client that you want them to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So Mary, does that support you should tag anyone? Is there a formula for tagging people on Instagram, Facebook? I actually know the answer to that. Yes, there is. But Ashley can answer that. Should she tag anyone? Is there a formula for tagging people on Instagram and Facebook?
So inside of the email marketing world, you can easily set up forms that then tag people based off of like this is like the no nonsense way of like, you have a form set up for people who join your Facebook group, and then you can tag them based off of coming from your Facebook group. Or you have a form where they like your link in bio, then they do that, then you can see that they're from Instagram. You can also set up UTM parameters as well too for your links. That's another way that you can do it to track sources. But
UTM,
honestly,
hold on. UTM stands for what?
I honestly don't even know.
Okay.
I just know they're called UTM. That's all I know.
M or N, just so.
UT and then M as in Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I don't spend a lot of time in them because, and this may come off as really harsh, but I really don't care.
I'm with you.
Okay, like if it's not noticeable, I like to do things extremely simple, no strings attached. I just show up and serve. Regardless of like how you find me now, like in my other company that I'm part of, we are going to be like going into UTM tracking and figuring out where our sources are, because we have a team of 4 people working towards these goals, and we want to see where our efforts are best served. For me, it's incredibly simple because I already know, like, for the most part with the conversations I'm having, where people are coming from.
Got it. Any other questions for Ashley?
While we have her.
She is, and just so you guys know, she teaches in Ucoachia. She's absolutely available. And if we have not made this abundantly clear, currently we are still in the launch phase, which means we have a lower membership right now. And that means that you guys end up with pretty much so one-on-one attention in class.
It's unreal.
And yeah, it's crazy. So if you're thinking about joining, now is the time, and I'll drop a link in, but that is a great way of kind of connecting with Ashley and getting her eyes on what you're doing without having to deal with the one-to-one price tag that could come with it. It's a workaround, we'll call that for right now. Is that correct, Ashley?
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. So you guys jump on in. We're excited to have you. As always, you can stick around and ask any questions that you like. But does anybody have any other questions for Ashley that you would like to ask while you have her in front of you? The email maven, the email marketing queen, Lord Goddess of all things email.
I'm going to throw in a question, because something that the difference between, having kind of a mass email campaign and really targeting people individually, because we've had couple of different, one of our experts was like, yeah, I think it was Melanie. She's like, I don't do that. I don't do mass emails. I really write individual emails, person by person. Can you speak to how, because the automation has a place, and especially once you have a certain size list, you still want to nurture them, and you can't write an individual email to everyone. Can you speak to just a couple of tips on how we can make automated emails feel more personable?
Yeah, totally. So when it comes to personality, we'll start with personality-based copy, and then we'll go into like the intention of like the automation side. So with personality-based copy, it's really about talking how you speak. When I released the idea and concept of having everything to be perfect, grammatically correct, for my clients, I do focus on that, like in general, but you know, one of the things that I've realized for me is that like my personal emails I send out to my list are very messy. Like they're not always perfect because I'm not perfect. And I don't want my clients to think that I'm perfect either. And so within that, you know, I really focus on utilizing GIFs within my emails to add my own personality. I like to add in sayings. So like I'll say anywho instead of anyways, and just think about like those little catchphrases that you use, like holy guac or gosh, I can't think of another one right now. Oh, cool beans. Like if those are things that you say in real life, those should also be as part of your emails as well. Not like oversaturated where you're like, holy guac, I can't believe. Oh, and cool beans, you're here. Like, you know, like make it feel like you're
That was impressive. That was truly impressive.
But like colloquialisms that you use in your real life, bring it to the page. I think it's a great tip.
Exactly. Yeah. And don't censor your own self in that way. And then when it comes to the automations, yes, there can be definitely a lot of intentions when you're going through the process of like mapping that out, what you're saying and how you're saying it. And so what I always do, and this is like a whole couple hours that we're going to be talking about in Ucoachia specifically. Yes. But the high end overview is really just about thinking, okay, they're starting here at this starting point. Your lead magnet, when you think about it, is going to give them a small win around what? So I'm just going to say 5 ways to spice up your water. And this is really dumb, but it's the first thing I thought of. So like 5 ways that they're going to spice up their water. Most likely that person is not drinking enough water. We can just probably assume, or they're getting really bored of their water and they're like, man, I wish I had a way that I could really spice up my water so I could drink more water. And most likely by drinking more water, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel healthier, like all these things, right? You can go into this whole thought process of understanding your person. And so when you take that, those are pieces that you can then pull into your emails that then allow for you to be able to create your next best customer. And what that looks like is taking some of those pieces of reminding them to go back into that guide. Go back into that and like remind them like, hey, have you used or thrown a lemon into your water this, you know, in the past couple of days? If not, add it to your grocery list now. I won't say her name, but the A word, Alexa, you know, like to add that to your grocery list, like thinking about ways that you can then infuse it for them to be able to like remind them to create those small wins. And then from there, being able to, again, personalize it based off of where they're at in that journey. Now, somebody who is struggling with drinking water isn't going to be in the same place as somebody who is, gosh, let's just say looking to like run a marathon, for an example, right? Like when I think about it in the fitness sense, they're probably drinking their water. They're probably working on their protein. They're going through the process of, you know, maybe consistently working out, and maybe they just need help with, gosh, I don't even know because I've never ran a marathon. Maybe they're looking for stretches, right? Like that is a different container or a different problem that you're looking to solve. And so you can personalize the emails off of that. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, you can only get so far in automations before I start to look at your large list. And then that's where your audience and segmentation comes in based off of what you learn in automations. And so the way that I like to look at it is your automations are your starting points. That's what you get people into your world. That's basically like the TSA pre-check checklist of like, do you have all these things? Do you not have these things in your bag?
Yes.
Think about it in that way. And then from there, once they're basically like indoctrined or enrolled into your world, they understand who you are, what you do, how you can help them. Maybe they've had that small win with you. They're ready for more. Then you can bring them over into your like campaign emails. And that's where you start to experiment and test and better understand them and target content. Maybe it's sending out emails to certain segments versus not others. But at the end of the day, it's really a big process loop of like starting from the beginning of when they enter in, and then thinking about what it is that you can do to help them into like ongoing.
I love that. I love that. I think if you can imagine your ideal client, you know, if you have an avatar of who your ideal client is, and when you're writing these emails, imagine that you're writing it to that one person, you know, and I love, you know, checking in and reminding them of the tips that you've already given them, like you're speaking to one person. Like, hey, Ashley, did you put the lemon in the water this week? Like I told you to, you know, and imagine as if you're speaking to one person. I also love how you say that the larger emails is just a gateway into a closer relationship with you. And then that opens up for more individualized attention in the emails. That's great.
And I love it just based on like the tagging and what happens within, because I mean, everything like who clicked on what, who was doing what. So once you're inside of that and can track all that, then you can say like, okay, this person keeps on hovering over joining. I need to put them into this sequence where it's going to be more geared towards, whatever it is, like their objections they might be having, as opposed to this person who keeps on clicking on the grocery list. They're a different bucket.
Exactly. 100%.
I love that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ashley before we let her go? Don't worry, you guys, you can always get her inside of Ucoachia. Again, the link is right there to join, and you can always stick around and ask us any questions. And tomorrow, just so you guys know what's coming up, tomorrow we have a really fun day. It's a Q&A, like
Wrap up,
catch all, but like this is where you guys get to like kind of do a little workshopping and come back in and figure out stuff live. And we really like the entire point of this is for you guys to get all the information to actually get clients. Like this is the idea, is to have the actual step-by-steps, the strategies laid out for you, everything revealed. So put it into practice with us tomorrow.
Yeah, so Nancy and I are going to be hot seating those of you who are willing, and I really recommend that you be willing because this is a free resource for you. And we would love to take everything that we've learned in, all of the interviews of our amazing experts and tell us about your business. And let's see what kind of, actionable steps we can make for you so that you can move forward powerfully towards getting that next client, getting, those next 3, 5, 10 clients. So tomorrow's going to be an important day where it really turns back to you and it becomes all about you and who you are and what your business is and how we can support you in moving forward. So make sure you show up tomorrow. We can't wait. We're really excited about it.
Very excited. And again, everyone come and join Ucoachia. That's really what we want, to be able to support you within the family of Ucoachia, and that you guys can get people like Ashley. You guys have seen how amazing she is. And this, like the woman just spills knowledge.
Yeah, she does.
There it is. All this information. You're like, what is going on? So we have 1 minute left. And if there's nothing else, we want to thank you guys so much. Anybody's any questions, to stick around. But Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley, for showing up so powerfully, like you always do, and being so willing to share your knowledge and your wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it too.
Of course, always.